Happy New Year.
And
good morning. This is the end of the January session, so some people in this room have been sitting for 4.5 days. I really appreciate your certain practice during, Sanshinji session. We really focus on sitting. So it's really simple, but to be simple does not mean easy. So I really appreciate you willing to practice in this way. Anyway, this is my first Dharma talk in this year. Last time I talked, I gave a talk was I think in October, maybe September. But I have been, on Sundays, I have been talking on this text, Opening the Hand of Thought by my teacher, Uchiyama Roshi. So I continue to talk on this book. I planned to, now I'm talking on the chapter 8, the last chapter. And my plan was to complete this section before June this year. Then I retired. This chapter is the transcript, based on the transcription of Uchiyama Roshi's final lecture at Antaiji. After the day after he gave this talk, he left Antaiji. And I think I was 27. So this is the right thing to talk for me, to talk on this chapter of this book before I retire. But probably I cannot do that. But I'll continue after my retirement. Anyway, today I'm going to talk about little more than one page from, if we want to make sure, this is from page 144. The last paragraph of page 144. What Dogen Zenji meant by the phrase practice and enlightenment are one. Shakyamuni Buddha called precept or pratimoksha, this is in Sanskrit, in the Sutra of the Last Discourse, which was Shakyamuni Buddha's final teaching, just before his death. There is a passage that reads, "Monks, after my death, respect and follow the pratimoksha. If you do, you will be like a person who has been given a light in the dark, or like a pauper, poor people, who acquires a great treasure." These are Shakyamuni Buddha's last words. He said his disciples should respect and follow the precepts. Pratimoksha has been translated into Japanese not just simply as precepts, but also as emancipation through the observance of the precept. In Japanese, shosho gedatsu or betsu gedatsu. Each precept that is kept liberates us from its corresponding evil. When we observe a particular precept, there we are immediately emancipated. I think this idea of pratimoksha is the origin of Dogen Zenji's practice and enlightenment are one. Betsu betsu gedatsu means that if we uphold a certain precept, we will be emancipated to the extent of that precept. If we open the hand of thought right here, right now, and experience reality, that is true enlightenment. Dogen expressed the spirit of Shakyamuni Buddha in his own words when he said, "Practice and enlightenment are one." It seems that very few people who study Buddhism these days pay any attention to the idea of pratimoksha. I asked some students from a Buddhist university whether they knew about pratimoksha or not, but none of them had heard of it. Shakyamuni Buddha said very clearly that after his death, his disciples should respect pratimoksha more than anything else, so it must be very important. This spirit of pratimoksha is the same as that expressed in practice and enlightenment are one. Therefore, instead of aiming at some ready-made enlightenment, we should practice opening the hand of thought and just be aware of the vivid reality of life in every place and in every moment. This is Buddha Dharma. So in this lecture, Uchiyama Roshi talked about 7 points. 7 points he kept in his mind while he was the abbot of Antaiji. And when he retired from Antaiji, he wanted to transmit those 7 points to his disciples, and I was one of them. This fact he talked in this lecture is like his will to me. So since I left Antaiji, that was almost more than 40 years ago, I have been keep these 7 points in my mind to practice by myself and also to practice with other people. So those 7 points were translated into English, and we put it in the frame at Valley Zendo in Massachusetts, and put it in front of the Zendo. And I think in our website, Sanshinji website, also these 7 points are there. You can find it. So to me, these 7 points are important to practice within Sangha, with other people, as a bodhisattva. Anyway, now I'm talking about the first point of the 7th, that is study and practice the Buddha Dharma only for the sake of the Buddha Dharma, not for the sake of emotions or worldly ideas. When he talked about this point, to study and practice the Buddha Dharma only for the sake of the Buddha Dharma, not for the sake of emotions or worldly idea or personal emotions that is almost always like or dislike or good and bad, I want or I don't want. and worldly idea is what is more valuable than others within the society. So now he's talking about we should study and practice Buddha Dharma only for the sake of Buddha Dharma. Then before what this means, he's talking about what is Buddha Dharma there. Before that, I'd like to introduce here this idea to study or practice only for the sake of Buddha Dharma. It's from Dogen Zenji's Zuimonki. This is my translation of Zuimonki and Dogen's waka poems, published from Wisdom, I think this year. In 6.2 and page 225 of this book, Zuimonki, Dogen says, student of the way, that is his disciples, the monks he practiced with him. We should not study the Buddha Dharma for the sake of our own ego-centered self. We should study the Buddha Dharma simply for the sake of the Buddha Dharma. So exactly the same thing. And Dogen continued, the genuine way to do so is to completely cast away body and mind, leaving nothing behind, and dedicating ourselves to the great ocean of the Buddha Dharma. After that, without being concerned about the right and wrong of each thing, without clinging to our own views, even if it is difficult to endure, we should allow ourselves to be used by the Buddha Dharma. When doing things, even if we want to do something, we should give it up if it is not in accordance with the principles of the Buddha Dharma. We should never ever expect to obtain good results in exchanging for our efforts in practicing the Buddha way. Once we are dedicated to the Buddha way, we should never look back at ourselves. We should just continue practicing in accordance with the regulations of the Buddha Dharma, without considering twisted personal views. The examples of past practitioners have all been like this. When we no longer seek anything on the basis of our ego-centered mind, this itself is great practice. This itself is great peace and joy. This great peace and joy is Dai Anrak, and peace and joy or Anrak can be used as a translation of Sukha. That is opposition of Dukkha. Dukkha is suffering, and Sukha is joy or happiness, and that means Nirvana. So what Dogen is saying is, we study and practice Buddha Dharma for the sake of Buddha Dharma, and cast ourselves into the community, in this case, monastery, monastic community and follow everything, following the regulations, the way things are done. Then that practice, that life is itself nirvana. So, except that we should not expect anything for other personal benefit. He's talking to his monks in his monastery. The difference from his situation and our situation is, the monks could live completely within monastery and devote themselves in the monastic study and practice. But at least here at Sanshinji, there's no such monastery. We don't stay in the monastery. So somehow we have to create our personal way of life. And based on this teaching, it must be really difficult, more difficult than the practice for those monks who could stay in the monastery. So we have to be really careful and diligent to, this is, I think we are still in a very early stage of Buddhism in America. So nothing is established. So we need to find some way we can study and practice Dharma with this spirit, even though it's not really possible to practice as Dogen and his monks could do. Anyway, so Uchiyama Roshi take this expression, study and practice the Buddha Dharma only for the sake of Buddha Dharma from Dogen's teaching. And he thinks this is one of the most important points in Dogen's tradition, to study and practice only for the sake of Dharma, not for our personal benefit. And what Uchiyama Roshi has been talking about, then what is Buddha Dharma? Basically what he said, his Zazen, our Zazen practice of letting go of thought, this opening the hand of thought, is the way we become free from our self-centered idea. And when we are sitting in the Zen, we don't take any action based on our self-centered, twisted way of thinking. So this Zazen is Buddha Dharma. That is Uchiyama Roshi basically saying. And when people think about Zazen or Zen practice, they somehow expect some very decisive satori or enlightenment experience. Then everything changed, and we are released or liberated from all the problems, all the mistaken views, and we can really do things based on Buddha Dharma. But Uchiyama Roshi, not only Uchiyama Roshi, but this Dogen said, our Zazen is not to gain such a kind of a breakthrough experience, psychological experience, but we awake moment by moment. And this awakening within our, not only Zazen, but including our Zazen and our daily lives, when we open our hand, become free from our self-centered desire and views, then that is emancipation. That is satori. Therefore, in our practice, there is no end. We cannot say, now I graduated from this practice. As far as we are alive, we continue to practice in this way. So this is, in a sense, this is a sudden awakening, and yet our practice continue until the end of our life, or even after our death. It's nearly a practice, study and practice, life after life. So in Dogen's teaching, this idea, practice and realization are one. That is Shusho Ichinyo. Shu is practice, and the show is realization, or the result of practice, and that is called enlightenment usually. But Dogen then said shu and show, practice and realization are one reality. Each is one reality. So when we practice, awakening is there. And in order to explain what Shusho, Dogen Zenji's teaching of Shusho Ichinyo, practice and awakening are one, Uchiyama Roshi is saying, Shakyamuni Buddha said the same thing, taught the same thing by using this expression, pratimoksha. Pratimoksha. SHA. Prati and moksha. And moksha means liberation or emancipation. And prati, we don't know. I mean, it said many scholars, various scholars try to find what prati means, but it said no one knows the etymological meaning of what this prati means. But in Chinese translation of this, by the way, pratimoksha refers to precept. Precept or precepts we receive. As a original word for the precept, there are two words are well known. One is vinaya, another is sila. But pratimoksha is not so well known. But this is another word used in Buddhism to refer to the precept. Precept is ethical teaching or morality. And these three, the original meaning of these three words are different. I think sila means morality, and vinaya means discipline. And in Chinese translation of pratimoksha is as Uchiyama Roshi talks, that is in Chinese or Japanese, this pratimoksha is translated as betsu, ge, that's betsu, ge, that's, or shosho ge, that's. That is the same. Betsu means different or separate, or each of those more than one thing. And or another English word might be respective, each and every. So I don't know how to translate this word, but gedatsu or moksha is being free, become free from certain problem we have. You know, the problem in the case of morality, it's the actual activity, actions, which makes karma. And the morality or the precept is to teaching to things we need to avoid. You know, as it is said in the Dhammapada, to do good thing and to avoid unwholesome thing, and to keep our mind pure is the teaching of seven Buddhas. So this precept is about to avoid unwholesome actions and to practice whole action. That is first two in that verse in Dhammapada. And the third one, keep your mind pure, is don't even grasp or attach ourselves to good and bad things, or discrimination between good and bad things. Anyway, so that is what gedatsu means. And betsu or each or separate or respective means when we keep one practice, we are released from that problems that precept, how can I say, prevent. So that this is the interpretation of this expression, pratimoksha in China. And in Japan, we interpret this practice, pratimoksha, in that way. That means, you know, we usually think, as I often said, there is a samsara where we are now. This shore we are suffering. And the other shore is nirvana. And our practice is to cross over this river and enter nirvana. That is the other shore. So there is a two separate places called samsara and nirvana. And once we reach the other shore, we don't need to do anything. But when I talk about the precept, I always say this is not the case, because there's no such river that is separate as a boundary between samsara and nirvana. So samsara and nirvana are both here and now, depending upon our attitude. So when we are pulled by our karmic consciousness and deluded desire, and to do some self-centered actions, then this our life, not only inside of ourselves, but the world in which we are living become samsara. But when we let go of our self-centered idea, twisted dharma, and practice good, then we are released from that problem. And we find nirvana right there. So samsara and nirvana is depending upon what we do here and now, whether we are pulled by our karmic consciousness or practice for the sake of Buddha Dharma. And this Buddha Dharma means, in my understanding, this means the network of interdependent origination. We are always part of it. We cannot live outside of it. Still, we think we are separate from the rest of the world, and we can use anything around us to satisfy my desire. That is really self-centered. So by letting go or opening the hand of thought, we become free from that kind of attitude. Then we can find a kind of a common ground that is interconnection. We are really living, existing, and supporting together with all beings within this network. That is to practice Buddha Dharma for the sake of the Buddha Dharma. So within this Buddha Dharma, we are included. It is not we are outside of the Dharma, and we have to sacrifice ourselves for the sake of the Dharma. We need to understand this point very clearly. Within the Buddha Dharma means within this network, we are there. So our practice is to find what is the best thing to do, not only for me, but for this entirety of the network. Anyway, that is what pratimoksha in Japanese Buddhism means. Maybe not Japanese Buddhism, in Uchiyama Roshi's teaching. That is what he's talking here. So let me read sentence by sentence. What Dogen Zenji meant by the phrase practice and enlightenment are one, Shakyamuni Buddha called precept or pratimoksha, that is precept. In the Sutra of the Last Discourse, this is in Japanese, this is called Butsu Yui Kyo Byo, and this is this sutra includes what Buddha taught right before his death or entering nirvana. One of the translation of this sutra, in the very beginning of this sutra, it says, Buddha says, all of you bhikshus, monks, after my nirvana, means after my death, we should reverence and honor the pratimoksha, the precept. It is like finding a light in darkness, or like a poor person obtaining a treasure. So this is what Uchiyama Roshi quoted. And Buddha continues, you should know that it is your great teacher. So this pratimoksha is your teacher. Your great teacher and is not different from my actual presence in the world. That means if you consider this pratimoksha and practice as your teacher, then that is not different from actual presence of Shakyamuni Buddha. That means even before and after Buddha's death, if we keep this practice of pratimoksha, it's not different. I think for Buddhist, Buddha's death was really a good problem. Shakyamuni Buddha was a really great teacher and one of the three treasures. And when they lost Shakyamuni, they lost one of the three treasures. So they start to think, I think, what is Buddha? How can we find Buddha treasure after his death? And I think what they found is before Shakyamuni's death, he said, people who see Dharma see me. So Dharma is Buddha. So if we see Buddha's Dharma, that is originally that means Buddha's teaching. If we memorize, remember, and study and practice what Buddha taught, then Buddha is still there. That is the origin of the idea of Dharmakaya Buddha. But this concept of Dharmakaya kind of grew and getting bigger and bigger. It's not only what Buddha taught, but the Dharma that is truth or reality, Shakyamuni awakened to. That is how things are in this entire universe, is Dharmakaya. So not only what recorded sayings of Buddha, but the Dharma to which Buddha awakened to is Buddha. And to awake to that reality of this entire universe, that is in Mahayana teaching, interdependent origination, or shunyata, or emptiness, and interconnectedness. And that is Buddha's Dharmakaya, Buddha's Dharma body. So pratimoksha, or to keep the precept in Mahayana Buddhism, is to keep awakening to this Dharmakaya and do things based on that truth or reality, that is interdependent origination. So this is Buddha's teaching, and from here, Mahayana teaching have been developed before Dogen, and Dogen thought our Zazen practice and letting go of thought, in Uchiyama Roshi expression, is the way we really become the part of this network of interdependent origination. Instead of thinking other things as our object, and try to understand what they are and what is good for me. That is not the practice based on Buddha Dharma. That is practice based on my view and my selfish desire. But when we open our hand and try not to go such a way, but to return to this interconnectedness and being still there, at least in our zazen, is we really part of this network. And in our daily lives, after session ended, we return to the day-to-day lives. Then we have to make choice. What is the best way, best actions to live based on that awakening of interdependent origination. In our zazen or in this zendo, we can let go of everything because it's safe. But if we walk on the street and let go of food, it's dangerous. We have to remember what the traffic signal means, and we have to make choice if we cross the road or wait. So we cannot let go of everything, but so we need to keep something, some thought, and make choice. But we can let go of other kind of miscellaneous things that has nothing to do with what I'm doing. For example, when we are cooking, we focus on cooking, but often, even though I'm cooking in the kitchen, still when I was a tendo during this, and other people are sitting, I often think, why I have to be here? Why I have to cook? Why I couldn't sit? So we think what I am doing was the worst thing, and other people are doing best thing. But when I was in the zendo, I feel I want to cook. So somehow, where we are can be our worst place. What I'm doing is the worst thing, and we are a kind of a fantasy that might be better, to go somewhere. But that is pratimoksha. We have to focus on here and now and what we are doing, and just do it, and let go of all other miscellaneous thought, disturb, interfere with what I am doing. That is our practice in our daily lives. So basically, how we practice in our daily lives is how our zazen practice function in our day-to-day activities. Anyway, so Uchiyama Roshi is saying this is what Dogen taught about practice and realization are one. So our practice is moment by moment. It's not that when we have certain enlightenment experience, all such self-centered problems are gone, and we can, whatever we do can be enlightenment. That is not what Buddha taught, and what is not Dogen taught. And that is what Dogen is, not Dogen, but Uchiyama Roshi is teaching to us. Let's see. These are Shakyamuni Buddha's last words. That means we should consider pratimoksha as our teacher. He said his disciples should respect and follow the precept. Pratimoksha has been translated into Japanese not just simply as precept. There are, as I said, those three Sanskrit words are translated into English word precept, but we have to make a kind of a clear understanding what are these really means. So when this word pratimoksha is used, that has something to do with liberation. How we can find or experience liberation or emancipation in our Zazen practice and also in our day-to-day activities. Pratimoksha has been translated into Japanese not just simply as precept, but also as emancipation through the observance of the precept. And that is, as I wrote, shosho gedatsu or betsu-betsu gedatsu. Each precept that is kept liberates us from its corresponding evil or unwholesome. When we observe a particular precept, there we are immediately emancipated, and there we experience nirvana. I think this idea of pratimoksha is the origin of Dogen Zenji's practice and enlightenment are one. Betsu-betsu gedatsu or pratimoksha means that if we uphold a certain precept at a certain situation or a certain moment, certain precept, we will be emancipated to the extent of that precept. That doesn't mean we are liberated by all of the problems, all our delusions and desires, but one by one, moment by moment, in each situation, we need to find what is the way to express, realize the Buddha Dharma. So if we open the hand of thought, right here, right now, and experience reality, that is true enlightenment. Dogen expressed the spirit of Shakyamuni Buddha in his own words when he said, practice and enlightenment are one. And this expression, pratimoksha, was, in a sense, much older than the word Vinaya. Vinaya is a common word which refers to Buddhist precept, and Vinaya is one of the three baskets of Buddhist scriptures. But for example, I found Stanipata was one of the oldest Buddhist scriptures, same as old as Dhammapada. In the Stanipata, there's one sutta, very short sutta. The title is Rafla, R-A-H-U-L-A, Rafla. Rafla is the name of his son, Buddha's son. And when he was still a kid, maybe teenager, he became a Buddhist. But he couldn't receive Vinaya yet until he became 20 years old. So he became a novice. And Shakyamuni Buddha requested his son to be a student of Shariputra. So Shariputra was Rafla's teacher. So Buddha didn't become his son's teacher. I think it's really difficult to be a teacher of one's own son or child. So first question from Shakyamuni to Lafra is, do you not despise the wise man because of constantly living with him, is a torchbearer of humankind, always respected by you? So he is asking his son, do you respect Shariputra? This wise man or torchbearer refer to Shariputra. So do you respect your teacher? It might be possible he despised the teacher because his teacher was his father's disciple, and he was a prince. So he might have a self-conceit and despite Shariputra. But Lafra said, I do not despise the wise man because of constantly living with him. The torchbearer of humankind is always respected by me. So I don't have such a self-conceit, but I really respect Shariputra. Then Shakyamuni gave instruction to his son. I think because it's short, I can read entire sutra. So Buddha taught to his son. His son was still a young novice. So this is really before Vinaya was established. Vinaya was established after Shakyamuni died. Buddha disciples had a kind of gathering, and they compiled sutras and Vinaya. Ananda recited what Buddha taught, and another disciple, what is his name? Upari, he memorized all of the prohibitions Shakyamuni made, and those become Vinaya. So before Shakyamuni passed away, there's no Vinaya. But here Dogen used this word, not Dogen, I'm sorry. Shakyamuni used this expression, pratimoksha. So pratimoksha was much older than Vinaya. Let me read what Buddha taught to his son. Having given up the 5 strains of sensual pleasure, so pleasing and delightful to the mind. So those 5 strands of sensual pleasure is object of sense organs, 5 sense organs, and object of 5 sense organs. Usually we say 6 sense organs and 6 objects. But in this case, somehow mind is not mentioned. Usually precept is about what we do, not what we think. What we think should be, how can I say, trained in different way, not by precept, not by meditation and studying Dharma. Anyway, having renounced the home life out of faith, be one who makes an end to suffering. Associate with good friends. So Sangha is important, good friend is important. And resort to a remote lodging, secluded a place with little noise. Be moderate in eating. Do not give rise to craving for these robe and alms food. This is the food monks receive through begging. alms food, and requisite is referred to the medicine when monks need when they are sick, and lodging where they live. Do not come back to the world again. So this way of life is outside of so-called worldly way of life. Be restrained by the pratimoksha. I'm sorry, here this is from Pali, so it is a Pali word for pratimoksha as pratimoksha. And pratimoksha in Sanskrit are the same word. And in the 5 sense faculties, let your mindfulness be directed to the body. So here he's talking about meditation practice. Direct our mind to the body to see the impurity of the body. Be full of disenchantment toward the world. So become free from worldly system of value. And avoid the mark of sensual object, which is beautiful and connected with lust, L-U-S-T. Develop your mind on the unattractive. Make it one-pointed, well concentrated. This is about meditation practice in Buddha's time. And I think next paragraph is about wisdom. And develop the markless state. Markless in Chinese translation is muso. So is I translate so as a form, so formlessness. But here this is translated as markless, because this so can also mean mark, the characteristics of something. So in Mahayana teaching, this means we need to develop the understanding of emptiness, no self and impermanence, and everything is suffering. Discard the latent tendency to conceit. Conceit is same as gaman, self-conceit or self-pride or self-arrogance. Last November, during the practice period, we studied Busho, and Dogen wrote about Nagarjuna's actualize the Buddha nature. And in that section, Nagarjuna said, to see Buddha nature, first of all, we need to become free from self-arrogance. That is gaman. And I think Buddha is saying the same thing, self-conceit. So discard the latent, L-A-T-N-T, latent tendency to conceit. Then, by breaking through conceit, you will live in tranquil peace. Live in tranquil peace is nirvana. So this life, this way of life is nirvana. So nirvana is not somewhere we go after we die or after we had certain enlightenment experience. But when we practice in this way, day after day, then we find nirvana like there each moment, in each situation. And Dogen, Uchiyama Roshi said that is the same teaching as Dogen's practice and realization are one. Next paragraph is just Uchiyama Roshi's complaint about young Buddhist students. They don't know about pratimoksha. So not only about the student, but about the teacher in the university, they don't teach. It seems that very few people who study Buddhism these days pay any attention to the idea of pratimoksha. I asked some students from a Buddhist university, actually those students are from Komazawa University, that was where I was studying, whether they knew about pratimoksha or not, but none of them had heard of it. Actually, I remember I never studied pratimoksha at the university. So Uchiyama Roshi was right. Shakyamuni Buddha said very clearly that after his death, his disciples should respect pratimoksha more than anything else. So it must be very important. This spirit of pratimoksha is the same as that expressed in practice and realization or enlightenment are one. Therefore, instead of aiming at some ready-made enlightenment or satori experience, we should practice opening the hand of thought and just be aware of the vivid reality of life, here and now, in every place and in every moment. This is Buddha Dharma. So when Uchiyama Roshi is talking about we should study and practice Buddha Dharma, for the sake of Buddha Dharma, we should practice this for the sake of this practice, not to gain something we want, but this practice moment by moment is realization and is nirvana. This is what I have to say this morning. Any question or comments? Please.
It seems that, maybe not just here, but in most sort of industrialized countries, the whole kind of basis of our society is self-indulgence. That's kind of what makes the economy work.
So poisonous mind.
Yeah. And I think that, there are very few people that I can point to. I think you are one, people who I see who are really kind of not self-indulgent, and act in such a way that kind of minimizes some of those things. And it's really difficult to do in our society. I think if we really embrace not being self-indulgent, then within our society we're strange people, and maybe a little extreme even, And so I'm curious about this dynamic because I think over time, worldly culture has become more and more self-indulgent. And as Buddhists, we're encouraged, obviously at the time that Buddha and Dogen were talking, I think people generally were probably less self-indulgent than now, but already Buddhists were being even less self-indulgent than that. So as self-indulgence has risen in our culture, how do we as Buddhists sort of not rise up with that tide and also become more self-indulgent, you know what I mean? Like, how do we balance these things, living in a society that is so self-indulgent?
I think the situation is not so different from Shakyamuni's time. Even though I don't know how many disciples Buddha had, including both monks or home livers and lay people. But still, I think it was rather small community. And the rest of the world, even in India, same thing happening as we have right now. They had epidemics and war and competitions, and larger, stronger country or empire invade a smaller kingdom and made their country. And Shakyamuni's own kingdom was also conquered by larger power. So I think the situation wasn't so different. But the problem, I think, their power means power for three poisonous mind. Became much stronger, and even we should not exclude ourselves, but we have a power to destroy entire planet. That's why we have to consider, in the time of Shakyamuni or even Dogen, if they escape from that kind of society, mundane society, they could have their own community to live on a different kind of a principle. Even Dogen's time, he escaped from Kyoto and went to the remote mountains. Then he could practice in their way that is different from mundane world, basis on three poisonous mind. But now we cannot live in that way. No matter how remote we can be, we are still part of this system. I think that is the difference. There's no way to escape right now. But I think many people began to realize this is a problem. And if we continue to live in this way and produce CO2 so much in this way, sooner or later, we cannot live in this planet, even if we don't have a nuclear war. So I think, in a sense, this is a chance, good opportunity to find there's another alternative way of life. And people start to think that is necessary if we don't want to, destroy human civilization sooner or later. So in that sense, it's much more difficult than the time of Shakyamuni or Dogen. But Dogen's time also, Japanese society was not so peaceful. So many people, they have so many, epidemics and fighting, and even in the capital Kyoto, where he lived, there were piles of dead bodies by the Kamo River. So I don't think we are living in the so different situation from Shakyamuni or Dogen. So I think it's important to live on this on Buddha, what Buddha taught on the basis of Dharma, and try to kind of enlarge the community who agree with to live different principles from self-indulgence. Otherwise, sooner or later we'll die. And humankind will be, how can I say, this civilization needs to be, cease to be. So I think it's important to continue our practice, even the community is small, but I think people start to understand.
Just as a follow-up, I mean, I think that, we always, you always teach this consistently about self-indulgence and self-conceit, and Dogen obviously is very clear about it, and the Buddha as well, but I guess my worry is that people don't really understand what that means in the context of our society. And I think what I meant about maybe I think that people's spirits have always been maybe self-indulgent, but now we have the power that we have makes it have a much greater effect than it would have had in the past. And I think that, I guess my worry is maybe as Buddhists we don't emphasize enough how destructive we can be, even just going about our kind of normal worldly lives. And should we, I guess the question is, should we as Buddhists emphasize that more and in a more kind of direct and practical way? These are some steps that you can take to be less self-indulgent in our world.
I think so. That is how we can make contribution to the entire world as a Buddha's disciples. Of course, they are, depending upon who we are, what we can do is different. So someone can be very active in the society, or some people focus on sitting in the quiet place. Some people study Dharma, and some people just cook in the kitchen. So we need some bodhisattva who could, speak up that problems we have, I think. Okay,
thank you.
Anyone, anything else, please?
So I feel a little challenged here about this pratimoksha.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, scholars are trying to figure out the etymology of it. And so I've been scratching my head and wanting to run over to my Sanskrit dictionary.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, moksha means liberation.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, moksha means liberation.
Mm-hmm.
But the term's not usually used in Buddhism. It's a term more within the system of yoga. It's used in the Yoga Sutra, and it's also used in a system of yogic philosophy called Shankara. And Parakti does have a meaning there. And I'm wondering whether that's the meaning, but it's not a simple meaning. It's a very complex meaning. But it's often translated as matter, as the stuff that we become conscious of. Except Parakti doesn't believe that matter is self-contained. Matter is created by our perception of it. So there's a certain duality between Purusha, the word in the Shankara philosophy for consciousness, and then the Parakti, which has existence only when it comes into contact with consciousness. So it's a consciousness-only system of thought. So I wonder if that's helpful in trying to figure out the etymology of that, but I don't see how that translates into precept.
I don't know. The word prati has really many various meanings, and respective or each is one of them. Another interpretation is toward.
Is what?
Toward.
Toward.
Oh,
yes.
Toward
okay, yeah.
emancipation. So this makes more sense in the context of traditional Buddhist teaching, that precept is a kind of preparation to practice meditation and study Dharma, wisdom. So precept, meditation, and wisdom are three basic studies. And precept, keep the precept is a kind of preparation or basis to study meditation. And meditation, through meditation, we awaken to that truth that is wisdom. So I don't know why, those people who made Chinese translation translate prati in betsu or respective. So because I'm not a scholar, I have no idea.
Oh, you're more of a scholar than I am.
But in the Vinaya, when many scholars studied Vinaya, and among those scholars who studied Vinaya, there are various interpretations. So basically we don't know what is really, because I think it's too old. So anyway, thank you for your contribution.
I wish it was more useful. Thank you for your Dharma talk.
Thank you. Okay, anything else? It's quiet.
I'm pretty tired.
Maybe you are tired. You don't want
It's
to
a shame people have spent 5 days working on letting go of self-indulgence. Because we form a very, well, interestingly, we form a very intimate practice community when we're practicing in that way, especially because for a variety of reasons, we just had an especially intimate community. So our self-indulgence is immediately reflected back to us, when we make a mistake. And you're only sitting with 7 people in one room, and you're doing nothing but eating, sleeping, and sitting for 5 days. It is one way in which our zazen practice, I think, can help us untangle that self-indulgence a bit, because we notice right away when we've been self-indulgent. So it's interesting that Dogen kind of brought that up, because to me, I was thinking, coming right out of Sesshin, that's really relevant. It's very, very relevant.
Okay, thank you very much. I think you need rest.